You know what's good about your business compared to mine? Everything I do is long money. Like, so I just signed a contract on a deal in Long Branch that I'm going to build 8 $1.5 million houses. And I'm like, yeah, you know the trouble with that? The promote, that's where the money's made for the fund manager. That's at the end, 5-6 years down the road. So I'm always setting myself up for long money.
Get ready for Real Lives of Real Estate, where the world of real estate meets the essence of your life. Buckle up as we unravel stories, homes, and the heartbeat behind it all. Let's dive into another episode. I hope you share and are encouraged. All right, I am here with Chris Stout, developer and multifamily syndicator.
Yeah.
I said it right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Cool. And a new friend to me. I was really, funny enough, actually, I was telling you before, but I follow you because you built two, I remember the first video actually. I watched yours on Instagram. It was you built two families in Staten Island, I think.
Yep.
And the reason why it was so interesting because I had an opportunity to buy a 50 by 100 land. I'm like, oh, I'm going to build a 3-family.
Yeah.
I think 3 families is the way to go. But then, would you mind just talking real quick about that one? Because I was always interested.
Yeah. So within Staten Island, you have a lot of different zones. Majority of the island does not allow 3-family.
Oh, okay.
So basically, most of the island, Staten Island, is 1 and 2 family buildings. You have some zoning in Staten Island that, and the way the zoning actually works out is pretty funny. There's some very densely zoned areas down by like the ferry. So it'd be, I should say, up by the ferry, northern side of Staten Island. So it's zoned properly for nice, big, tall buildings, multifamilies, all this. But the area, the sewer system in the area can't handle it.
Oh.
So you would be able to get zoning approval, but you couldn't get approval to hook up to the sewer.
So what'd you do?
You got to wait.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to wait for the city to upgrade the sewer system.
That could take years.
It could take forever.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's crap.
Yeah.
Literally crap.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, there's a lot of areas in real estate where you're like, this is going to go. Like, well, when? Well, I don't know.
But it's going to go.
It's going to go.
It could be 100 years.
We're in Newark right now, right? So my brother, I am 40. My brother is 56, 16 years older than me.
That's a big gap.
Yeah. My mother said I'm not an accident.
Do you believe it?
I actually think I was to save a marriage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think.
Powerful.
Yeah. So, but it's fine. If I was an accident, that's fine too.
Yeah. Hey, you're here.
Listen, I had a great childhood. My parents growing up, everything was great. So I have great memories of growing up and all that. So my brother, who's 16 years older than me, took a very similar path than I did, basically on his career journey. Always involved in construction, a little different from me. I'm very mechanically inclined. So I could fix anything under the sun. I can't throw a football to save my life. I'm horrific at sports, but I can fix anything. So when I started, I was in auto mechanics. I love working on cars. And then that later pushed into home and like remodeling and renovations and all that, and then further than real estate. And I enjoy the numbers and all that. But my brother basically started in new home construction with local builders in Staten Island. And those guys were all taking their money to Newark. So I talk to my brother a couple times a day. We have that kind of relationship.
Nice.
So I told him, I was like, I'm going to Newark later for a podcast. And it always comes up. He's like the joke is like, when's Newark going to turn? 30 years ago, it was ready to turn. So in Staten Island, you have Bay Street. When's Bay Street going to turn? It doesn't make any sense that Bay Street hasn't turned yet because it's right next to the ferry, which is right across from Manhattan. Why hasn't that area turned yet? I don't know. But anyway, we got on that from Staten Island zoning. In that area is zoned for the proper buildings. The sewers are not.
Wow.
The infrastructure is not ready for it.
Yeah, it's funny. Here in Newark, the infrastructure is ready. Like the city planning is like, it's not too congested. But they will say, you always got my the ambulance and several people.
I think it's great I think it's great. We're here.
We're here.
Yeah, we're not lying.
We're here in Newark. We love it. I was just telling Chris, I live 5 minutes away. I hear the sirens all day.
Yeah.
But
it's all part of it.
Yeah, it's a part of the city life.
Yeah, if you want quiet, there's somewhere for you to go.
This is not the place.
Here.
Yeah. There's so many quiet places. Newark's not one of them.
Yeah.
Unless you find like a meditation pod or something. Like noise cancellation.
Right. Go out in Pennsylvania and pay
anyways
$1,000 an acre. Okay.
Yeah, literally, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question because in your talk when we went to the Build It Now event a few weeks ago, I did not know you were a firefighter.
Yes.
You also said you were an auto mechanic. So were you an auto mechanic as a firefighter? Or?
No, so the auto mechanic thing actually started when I was like 16, 17. I started a little business out of my mother's house. And I would change, like my big thing, it was a $100 brake job. You needed brakes on your cars, $100, didn't matter the car, $100 brake job.
Why was that such a big thing for you?
Everyone needs brakes,
Okay.
and I know how to change them.
Bang, bang.
Yeah, didn't need too many tools.
That's true.
And they would drop the car off at my mother's house. I was cheaper than the mechanic. It was very convenient, and it was very convenient for the people. And I just loved working on cars. So then I started doing, I'm saying bigger and bigger projects on cars, but more in-depth type repairs.
Transmission, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
I actually never got that far.
Okay.
But like starters, alternators, maybe some minor electrical problems, suspension. I would do it all out of my mother's house. So that was when I was in my late teens. I became a firefighter when I was 22. And I've actually, until I retired now,
Oh, you finished your firefighter?
I finished. I went full cycle on fire department.
What? Who does that? Why did you do that?
What's that?
The benefits?
I got everything.
Yeah, I guess you're already. Wait, so wait. Pause. Yeah. So you grew up in Staten Island.
Yeah.
It sounds like you grew up in a single family.
Yep.
I'm imagining you guys used to play in the street with your neighbors.
Dude,
or no?
Exactly that. Dead end, semi-attached home in Staten Island. My parents paid in the 70s. I think I just asked my mother recently. She paid $38,000 or $39,000. And something I actually like to talk about, and you don't realize the struggles your parents go through. I don't think. Most people don't, because kids are just living their life. So I asked my mother recently, because everyone says now, like, oh, it's so hard now. It's so hard to do it now.
Yeah.
And I asked my mother recently, I'm like, Mom, and I asked her how much she paid. She remembered it very quickly and clearly. So she moved out of with my father, who's recently passed. They moved out of a 2-bedroom apartment in Queens into the semi-attached house in Staten Island. We could all agree that a semi-attached house in Staten Island is for the middle-ish class person, right?
Yeah.
So I said, hey, when you paid, 40 grand-ish for the house, was it hard? And she said, I can remember it like it was yesterday. We were extremely scared. We had to use your Aunt Lillian, who's my mother's sister. She died many years ago. We had to use Aunt Lillian's furniture to put furniture in the house because the house tapped us for everything. And she said, I was so scared all the time that we wouldn't be able to pay our mortgage after we closed. She says, obviously, as time goes on, it becomes easier because, income goes up and mortgages don't. Hopefully owning something over a period of time, it gets easier. So she said, but I remember it like it was yesterday, how difficult and challenging it was at the time. And I'm like, that's interesting because you would be like in a middle class-ish at the time. We didn't grow up with a lot of money, but, you should be able to afford a semi in Staten Island. Yeah. And it was very, very difficult then in the 70s. So it's just funny when people say like, oh, it's very hard now. Like it was never, when was life a walk in the park? Like when did that exist?
Can you name a time?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's why.
It was always hard.
I think
this shit is hard.
Yeah, it's all
Are we
hard.
allowed to curse here?
Yeah, you're allowed to curse. I actually think you're making a good point. I grew up, actually very interesting. So I often look back at my childhood. My brothers and I, we just came back from a trip. My 2 brothers, my sister, and our spouses. And it was extremely, extremely interesting to me because we always talk in our family. Growing up, we did have, relatively to the rest of America, a very challenging upbringing. We were evicted multiple times. We lived in my dad's store. It was 4 of us to 1 room. Wow. You know what I mean? My dad had a back like warehouse where he would do like screen printing. Yeah. So I literally for like a year or 2, 3 years, like had the fumes of the screen printing. That, like, it's a very distinct smell. Yeah. Anyways, the point is we always like have like almost like a chip on our shoulder, right? Yeah. Like a badge of like, not honor, but like, this is not hard. So when people talk about like, oh, I want to be financially free. Financially free is like, it means different things to different people, right? Yes. So I'm like, we were financially free when we had like the rental we could pay. That was our relation of like, we're free. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We can pay this. Yes. We have like 2 months in advance.
Someone's not knocking on the door
we're
today.
Good. Yeah. We're like solid. So with that being said, I'm like, man, we really struggled. Now I bring that up to my mom. Mom, I don't know how you did it. Really struggled. Like, it was easy. Like, so my mom won't say it was easy. She'll say, yeah, it was hard. But like, we had it so much, you guys had it so much easier than I did. My mind, I'm like, Mom, how was that even possible? Yeah. And she's like, literally, she told me a story that, this is a long story short, but her and her 2 sisters and her brother, my grandmother's cooking apparently wasn't that good. And they would take some of the food in Brazil and they would put it in like these dolls, right? Like we'd pop the head off the doll, put the vegetables because he couldn't leave the table till everything was eaten.
Yeah.
So they would put it there. A few days go by, a week goes by, next dinner, right? And they're doing this every day because they figured out the hack. We don't need to eat this food anymore.
Sure.
They come home for dinner. They sit down from school. Nothing's at the table. My grandmother's like, okay, now it's time to eat. And my mother and my aunt are like, well, where's the food?
Yeah.
How can we help? Because we got to start cooking. And my grandma was like, oh, the food's in your room. They went in the room and said, oh, food's not there. He goes, no, get your dolls. Bring the dolls here. And my grandmother made them sit and eat week-old food.
Oh, wow.
Like spoiled, mold, didn't matter.
Sure.
Eat it. And they sat down, they ate, and they got sick. And my mom said, like, that's how I grew up.
Wow.
So for you guys, like, you guys are like almost spoiled. In my mother's eyes, it was kind of like that.
Yeah.
So but it is funny because to your point, it's almost like a celebratory thing to like feel bad for yourself. It really is like,
yes.
Oh, I have it harder than anybody else. Like, you guys don't understand what I'm going through. It's like, wow, this generation is the most difficult generation to buy a house in America history ever. It's like, well, everything's hard.
Everything's hard.
Everything's hard.
You know, I think it's important for people to know that everything is hard for everybody. Because it's so easy to look at someone who did something and say, oh, that guy has it easy. The amount of pressure that someone went through, like we're sitting here at, what would this thing, this is like a cupola?
Cupola. Oh, this is like a turret.
A turret. We're sitting in the turret in Newark. I could see the whole city.
Yeah.
And I could see these tall buildings that I'm surrounded with. And people forget that the amount of pressure that someone went through to put one of these buildings up. But then they'll just go look at their mansion and say, I wish I had that.
Yeah.
It was so hard for that guy to get that.
Yeah.
So I heard something from, you follow Alex Hormozy? So I heard from him, real hard work is not going out and digging with a shovel in the ground for 12 hours a day. That's not real hard work. Real hard work is doing something day in and day out without certainty that it will ever pay off.
Yeah, that's the hardest work.
That's the hardest work. Because you know what? I know.
That's true.
Listen, I started from the beginning. So I started doing my own renovations, carrying drywall up staircases.
After the auto mechanic life.
Yes.
And after.
So this would be the start of my real estate career.
This was during the firefighter?
Yes.
Why did you start? Why not just stay as firefighter like a lot of guys do? Why go into real estate at all?
So I had much bigger aspirations for myself. So as a fireman, I could tell you when I retired, I was making, when I went in, the salary starts at like 50-something thousand, and then it stabilizes about 100. And then I later got promoted, and I think I finished off my last year was like 155,000. So most of us could agree that at 155,000, a sole income, $155,000 family in New York, you're tight.
Tight.
You're
in New York?
tight.
Tight. Very tight.
Family of 5, wife wants to do shit, we'll go on vacation. I'm like, I go on vacation for my family, and it's not like we take crazy vacations. A vacation's $10,000-$15,000 every time. You got to pay for 5 plane tickets. You don't want to shack up so kids are sleeping on the hotel floor. So you got 2 rooms. Dinners every night. It's very expensive.
Very expensive.
So actually, when I got on the fire department, and I actually held the information back for a while. I didn't tell anyone I was on the fire department. It was a big secret.
Oh, why is that?
So basically, this is how my journey started. I got on the fire department, and I was doing minor renovations for people. I actually could sneak something in there too. When I got on the fire department, I wasn't doing renovations for people yet. I opened up a Subway restaurant.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, so you always were like kind of just...
Yeah, I'll try to rip through this as quick as possible. So before the fire department, I was doing like the auto stuff. I got on the fire department, and that kind of slowed down a little bit. And I said, I want a business that's tangible, that I could actually sell. So I was looking at franchises, and Subway was the least expensive franchise to get into. It was $150,000-ish to get into it. So I wound up buying a Subway in Staten Island. Worked it for probably 2 or 3 years, realized that the only way to make money in Subway is if you own 100 of them. You can't own 1 Subway and make any kind of money. It's hundreds of dollars a week that the Subway clears. $1,000 a week that it clears. That's a lot of work.
A lot of work for a little money.
Yes. So I basically went back into construction because of it's what I knew, and I always wanted to grow a business alongside the fire department, because the fire department's a full-time career, but it's really 2 days a week. 2 24-hour shifts a week. Or to be more precise, it's 7 24s a month. So for 7 days out of the month, you're there, and then the rest of the time is on you, whatever you want. So you could live a regular fireman life, which you work the 7 days a month, and then you do whatever.
Whatever you want.
Right. Or you could actually use the time very well. Well, as well as you'd like it to do. So how do you get into construction with no money? You start doing repairs for people.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need any money. You need some tools.
Kitchens, bathrooms, done.
Yes. And you get a job, and then with that job, you pay for more tools, and that's how you kind of grow a construction business. Works pretty well. And then I was like, I know I want to own rental properties because I'm going to be able to retire from the fire department and have all that money to myself by that time, which is, now.
But how did you know this? Because that was before. You're talking 20 years ago, right?
18 years ago.
18 years ago. That real estate wasn't that popular back then. You're talking 2006, 2005.
Yeah.
Real estate was getting like...
Yeah. So actually, my first purchase was in 2008. So naiveness, is that a word? Naiveness?
Yeah.
Naivety? Naivete? I got into real estate in 2008 not knowing what the hell was going on around me.
Oh, no, brother.
You ever see a movie that that the actor or whatever is walking away for something and there's a big explosion happening behind him?
Yeah.
He's not reacting. That's when I got in. But for me, it was a good explosion.
Why is that?
Well, because I got in after the crash.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, so I didn't get affected by it.
I
bought low.
Yeah.
I bought low, just being like, I'm just going to go buy something.
This is normal.
Yeah.
These are the normal prices.
This is normal. Actually, this is hard.
Yeah.
And people are like, what? I just lost everything.
Wow. And what goes back to that point? Everyone thinks everything is hard.
Everyone thinks everything is hard, right? And it only looks easy when it pans out later.
Yeah, like 10 years later, or these buildings, 50 years later, the guy in the mansion, like, how did he get in the mansion?
Right, exactly.
Wow.
Or someone bought, I think a lot of people that bought real estate and did very well
in 08,
actually
09?
were making bad decisions at the time.
Oh, wow.
Like, think about, at one time, there's a time into the future where we are in this building will be surrounded by very expensive buildings. Yeah. Sometime into the future.
That's true.
Right? Williamsburg, Brooklyn was dead forever. And at one moment, snap, it changed. The people that were buying prior to that probably were making their decision was not a good decision. They were buying in an area that was depressed forever.
Yeah.
And they just happened to buy at the right time. And timing was on their side. They did not do it.
They weren't brilliant.
They were not brilliant. Right. They did not strategize properly.
How does that make you feel? You're like a numbers guy. You seem very data driven. You're all about it. Like in 2008, you kind of got, I don't want to say lucky because it wasn't luck, but it's like, how do you feel?
Yeah. There'll be so I house hacked. That was my first purchase.
Were you married at the time or no?
So I met my wife at the Jersey Shore. And somehow she was pregnant 3 months later.
Oh, okay.
2 months later. Somehow. So I was like, I guess, she was like, I guess we have to move into an apartment because it was decided, the baby's coming.
Boom.
What are we going to do?
Okay, may I? I don't know if it's too personal, but
ask any question you want.
Oh, I love this. Okay, so first, where in the Jersey Shore?
DJs. Belmar.
All love happens at Belmar.
Yeah. They say don't get married to DJs. Well, I did. Yeah.
So yeah, and Belmar is great. And thank God you came to the Jersey Shore where all love. Now you're back at the Jersey Shore.
Now we're back. Yeah.
It's all full circle.
That's right.
And now, okay, so you meet the girl, you meet this girlfriend becomes wife, girlfriend, pregnancy, wife. You do the more traditional route. You say, hey, let's do this right. You move in together. Boom.
That's right. Did not get married till 2 years later. So that we.
Okay, so you said, hey, we're going to move in, but let's not get married. Let's feel this out.
That's right.
Okay, respectable. Actually, I highly agree with that decision because I think it's crazy when people get pregnant. Say now we got to get married. Chill.
Yeah, you don't want to compound problems.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
one thing at a time.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I actually really agree with that.
When you get married, you just get in the government involved in your relationship. That's it. So good.
With that said, actually, wow, interesting. With that said, you end up moving together. Did you buy the house because she was pregnant?
I was always quietly saving for this investment property.
But was it a catalyst? Was like, okay, she's pregnant now. I really got to pull a trigger on something.
Yes.
Wow, that first kid was a blessing.
Yeah.
That first kid, you should name that kid Blessing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a good, wow.
So bought a house, 2-family, bought it. It was a foreclosure, REO actually. The guys that built it, it was an unfinished new construction house. So somehow my first house was a new construction house. Since then, I've never not lived in a new construction house.
What?
And I'm on number 3. So I'm very spoiled. So it was a...
Wait, why was it REO then? If it was new construction?
I'll tell you what they did. And we're on a real estate podcast, so it's good info. Not that anyone that's listening should go do this, but basically what they did is they were building pre-2008, pre the crash, pre when everything goes, or they were building it at the time when anything goes. They built this new construction house, 2 of them actually side by side, 1802 Drumgoole Road West, 1802 and 1804. I forget the one that was. It was either up or down, but mine was definitely 1802 Drumgoole Road West. You can look it up. They built the houses as shells. During the time they could do drive-by appraisals. Got the houses appraised for $7 and change each. Took all the money out of them through a refi, and then just let the project die. So they basically walked away with $1.4 million with shell of houses that they just abandoned the project. And so they basically robbed the title company and the bank.
And then get foreclosed upon in the end.
They foreclosed on them, took them. Those guys got locked up for something else. They were just doing stuff like that. And then went into the whole thing, and then I bought it.
I think one thing...
From Aquin Loan Servicing, actually, I remember.
Yeah, I think one thing I've learned...
I don't know if they're still around.
One giant lesson my life pretty much collapsed. I was like 20 years old, 22.
You have a very interesting story.
Yeah, my life, collapsed. And I learned a lot when I was...
I mean, to your...
Yeah, I think so. Relatively so.
Yeah.
When I was 22, I went to jail for 6 months, right? When I went to jail, I learned a very valuable lesson. Very valuable. The human condition is completely deprived. People ultimately are very fallen. No matter what. You want to believe the best in people, hopeful in people. Yeah, great. Ultimately, though, this one guy I met in jail was very interesting. His name was Ali, right? He's not a real name, but this guy's like nickname.
Sure.
Ali. Ali told me a story about how basically when he was 17 years old, him and his friend completely manipulated someone, like a younger guy, 16, 15, 16, whose parents were rich, to basically befriend him. They got him laid, all this stuff. It was an insane story. And then he goes, they convinced him that they were all going to run away together to California. Ali took his car. The other friend pretended that he took money right, from his parents. And then the younger guy, they knew that the younger guy's friend had a safe in the house. He took like $200,000 from the safe. He knew the parents' code. He hops in the car, goes, "Yeah, I got the money. We're going to be good, guys." Because now these are his school kids, right? The parents hate these 2 kids because they keep getting in trouble at school. You can imagine, as a parent, how important it is who your friends hang out with.
Sure.
Ends up, Ali turns around, slashes the guy's neck, kicks him out of the car 2 miles out of town. Wow. The guy falls on the floor. They didn't slash deep enough. He survived. Someone picked him up, drove him to the hospital, and...
His intention was to kill him.
Oh, his intention was to murder him.
Wow.
They survived. When the guy came out, basically he ended up saying these 2 people, they told his whole story, police, whatever. They never get the money back.
Wow.
Ali and the guy said, "We never got any money." That was their whole thing. We never take the money. We don't know what he's talking about. They never get the money back. And Ali got like 7 years in prison.
Wow.
As an adult, as he was tried as an adult at 17.
Wow.
The reason why that story is so interesting to me is because Ali, I would ask him, Ali, that was kind of crazy. 7 years, 6 years for $200,000. You got 100, he got 100, your partner. Is that really worth it? He goes, "It's $100,000. Of course it's worth it."
Wow.
And he was so nonchalant. I said, "Okay, that's crazy." He then went to tell me that his cell was robbed. And his cell was robbed. And when his cell was robbed, his like first few months in, because he was in a serious prison, he was 17 years old. Someone he knew from town told him who did it. So he went and he stabbed the guy like 15 times. The guy got helicoptered out. He got another like 4 or 5 years. I said, "Okay, stop, pause. How much was in your cell?" He goes, $200, $300. I'm like, "Was that really worth 5 years of your life?" He goes, "Brennan, you see my cup on my bunk?" Right, because we were in an open pod. He goes, "You see my cup on my bunk? It has water. If you went over there and knocked it over, I would knock you down. Like, it's not a matter of the money. It's a matter of principle. Because there's no big deal. It's no big deal. I'll be here for another 5 years. What's the big deal?"
What's the big deal?
And it was so crazy because this is what he did. 5 years, finally, I said, "What'd you do for work when you got out?" I'm super curious. Guy's opening up to me, blah, blah. He goes, "Oh, I worked in flooring." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Oh, I have my own business. Carpeting flooring." I'm like, "Yeah." So I'm like, what do you mean?" And now I understand real estate. Basically, he would go into people's houses alone, do work for them, and no one ever. How many times do you have a background check on a contractor?
I'm sure we've hired,
the crazies of the crazies.
Yeah.
But meeting him, he was such a cool dude. Super nice guy, man. Like you would hit it off with him.
Yeah.
And what the whole lesson taught me is the same exact thing I'm learning in real estate, where nice people, genuinely polite people you think are very well presented, do not underestimate the broken nature people can submit to, like the builder, right? The guy who finessed the system and ended up locked up. Yeah. There's a story in Newark here where literally the city co-signed, took pictures with this one developer, huge deal. The developer went to prison like 6 months later. The project they signed on was this parking lot, whatever, for the city. He ended up that whole project was investigated for bribes. And he's been doing this for like 15 years.
Wow.
And he's like such a highly respected figure. So you think that and you're like, people in real estate really teaching me this. You think it's different, right? Maybe it's just jail. It's not. Real estate is full of real estate professionals, just shady stuff, man. You got to be really, really, and there's like a gray area, right? We will live in a gray area. We don't, real estate's not black or white with the rules.
Yeah.
There's gray. But even in that gray, man, there's a line that some people just do not give a damn. They'll just cross.
Yeah. I could say like over my career, the amount of times where I really found someone pulling something shady, I can't say it's happened enough for me to. I've personally, in my 40 years alive, had nothing. I have had nothing but great experiences with other humans.
Can I tell you what this may be? It may be because your intention. It may be because the way you carry yourself. It may be because you're like, hey, I'm forthright. I'm up and I'm going to do the right thing. That's it. And when people see that, like you ever see that trick, you can't con an honest guy.
Yeah.
It's because the honest man, in real estate especially, you see it. You see it. You see it like, all right. And for you, are you going to take a shortcut to make an extra 10 grand?
No.
And put yourself and your family in prison?
No.
Are you going to do it for 100 grand? Probably not. You probably okay. If I can get in trouble, I pay a fine. Maybe I'll do it, right? But if I'm going to prison, I'm not going.
Yeah, I'm not taking. I mean, how old are you?
I'm 30.
30. So I'm 40, and it's funny. Then I look at older people, and I'm like, well, there's actually a lot of time left, but I'm not willing to sacrifice any time for anything. Like I'm not looking to burn any time.
None.
But yeah, I mean, generally, I'm a pretty diligent person. I don't think the only people I've ever been taken advantage of are some bad tenants over the years.
That's true.
But I don't have any relationship with them really.
Yeah.
I don't meet any of them really.
Yeah.
But people I actually transactionally do business with, I haven't had any real like people try to pull a shirt over my head. Maybe it is because the way that I carry myself that people are like, maybe let's not fuck with this guy.
Yeah,
maybe.
That could be the case.
Yeah, I pay attention to the details. So.
Well, okay. Back to the married question.
Yeah.
What did your girlfriend, now wife, think about the duplex? Was she supportive of it or not so much?
Yeah, so I could say in my marriage, and everyone's got a different relationship with their wife. My marriage is my wife looks at me and just go do your thing. So I don't consult with my wife on any business decisions. I don't consult with her on, hey, I'm going to go buy another investment property. I never have, and I never will. And it's just because that's not her department. Her department is the kids. So she's in charge of the kids. And once in a while, she'll say like, hey, just so you know, I'm doing this and this and this. And I don't cross over. Like I've never demanded anything be done with the kids where I'm like, you're not doing that. You're doing this. I've never done that. What would be an
example of something that your wife does? You're like, okay, I trust you on that.
The kids stuff, it sounds so silly, but like what school they going to?
No, I have one kid. Actually, I'd like to know, to be honest.
Yeah. Like what school they're going to or it's a lot of school stuff with the kids, like what they're going to attend, what sport they're going to go into.
But you're not going to shut down if your wife's like, hey, listen, what's your oldest name?
Sienna.
Sienna, a beautiful name. Sienna, it's actually a really nice name. If Sienna was like, okay, Sienna did something reckless, we're going to basically ground her for this amount of time. You're not going back saying, nah, that's ridiculous, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
You're like, okay, I trust you.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Yeah, and usually, right. Okay, that's a good example. So my Sienna, she's 14. So for anyone that's listening that has a 14-year-old, that's when it starts to get a little shaky. Okay. All of a sudden, like you get home and you find something on her phone. They're like, you had a twisted tea last night with your friends?
Yep.
And I'm like, fuck, what do we do with this? And then I look back and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess I had like a Zima when I was 14. You remember Zima? Well, I don't know. You probably...
No, I have no idea. I'm imagining it's some cocktail.
Yeah, so Zima would be like, like they have like hard seltzers and stuff now.
It's like Zima.
It's like that kind of drink. Mm-hmm. It's like a Mike's Hard Lemonade, Twisted
Fruity
Tea.
Tooty.
Yeah, the Fruity Tooty drinks that you get.
Super sugar.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, you start trying to think back and like decisions like that, like what do you want to do? Like, well, let's punish her and do this and whatever. But for anyway, the main point is like that's her decision and financial decisions are mine. And, I'll like, if we sit down and have like a glass of wine and discuss stuff, like I'll just tell her what's going on in my world. But the biggest thing is like I'm in charge of that stuff and it doesn't cross over and it's never like, don't do that. Don't spend your money here. Don't do like her full trust is in me.
And your wife never feels like, you referenced your mom, right? When she bought her house in the 70s, it was like, holy crap, this is scary. Your wife never feels like that way in terms of investing or no? My wife feels, which actually to fault, I would definitely say to fault. And I tell my wife this to her face, so I could say it here. My wife has absolutely zero respect for money. And she's never had that pressure of, I may not be able to pay this bill when it comes. So my wife does live the easy life. And sometimes like, as far as that like pressure of money, whereas sometimes I'm like, Dan, we just closed on this and this and this, we're tapped. So any real estate investor knows that like, you're either rich or poor. Yeah.
Like you could be cash rich and then you just close on a bunch of things and you're like, shit.
I'm broke.
So you're asset rich, but you're cash poor.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll tell my wife like, yo, reel it in. Like we're going to skip a couple nights out to eat here.
Yeah.
We're not going to do this. And it's very difficult for her to concept of like,
wow, it's so interesting.
How is it? So hold on. And my kids have said to me, because of this, like some content on Instagram, she's like, Dad, are you a millionaire? And I'm like, yes. They're like, how many millions? And I'm like,
enough.
A lot. But, because they actually asked in school, like, is anyone in here a millionaire?
What?
Yeah.
That's a weird question.
So my
I don't
daughter
think
was
I would
like
that question, my kid.
I know.
That's weird.
So my daughter was like, Dad, we're millionaires, right? And I'm like, yeah, yes.
Wait,
yes,
why did they ask that at school? What a terrible question to ask.
I know. It was weird. It's weird.
Very weird.
But you know what? To a lot of people, there's a lot of people out there that millionaire is such a separation to them.
Yeah, it's a lot. But once you are here, once you're here, you're like, there's actually people who are like literally like, I was a millionaire when I was 27, right? By the grace of God with real estate, only with real estate.
Yeah.
That's actually the hack. For me, the way I see it is like I own a real estate team. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. I have amazing realtors, number one in Newark, 4 years in a row. I love what I do.
Yeah,
and I genuinely like, even if I made a ton more money, like 10X on my real estate portfolio, I would actually still be selling houses. Yeah. I really enjoy it. To me, it's like, I imagine what you feel with development is or syndicating funds is what I feel with like going on like, which is crazy because definitely you make less money on this one, but the going on like that appointment with that seller and just like, okay, let's do this together.
You know what's good about your business compared to mine? Like I was talking to one of my friends earlier. Everything I do is long money, long. Like, so I just signed a contract on a deal in Long Branch that I'm going to build 8 $1.5 million houses.
Okay. So
we're doing a 10, 11, whatever $1 million project, whatever it is. So my wife was like, oh, that's great. That's cool. Like that's, I discussed some wins with her, and I'm like, yeah, the trouble with that? That's money in 2 years from now.
Oh yeah. It's tough.
Right. The syndication stuff. So we get an acquisition fee when we close a deal. But the promote, that's like that's where the money's made for the fund manager. That's at the end, 5-6 years down the road.
Long money.
I'm always setting myself up for long money. Whereas the brokerage business, it's quicker.
Yeah.
Much quicker.
It's definitely much quicker. And for me, it's interesting actually you say this because my brokerage business has given me access to like very rarely, but some good deals along the way. Right. So you talked about being broke.
It's always funny. Very rarely. I'm always interested to hear like from your brokerage business, it gives you access to good deals rarely.
Rarely.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I'll tell you, for me, actually, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm very pretty open. I don't care. So this is what I do, right? Oh, man, it's so good. I'm so excited. There's two, because I really am passionate about this. The way that real estate impacted my life was so transformative.
Yeah.
I've been able to help other people.
Yeah.
truly, I have more than like your wife has a completely different life than I or my wife did. It was so interesting. My wife and I, we both grew up in like very low income families.
Yeah.
So my wife, she's like, we're about to build a house. I was telling you about down the shore. I may build one in Newark to live in for the time being. So I'm actually
my wife's dad was a sanitation worker, so I don't know where the disregard for money came. But anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus God.
Yeah.
So my wife,
Yeah.
my wife has a very high regard. So I'm talking to my wife about the mortgage, and basically it would be like $1,700 more than we're paying now. $1,700. I'm like, no, but this is fine. We can definitely afford this. Like we're not in a position where $1,700 is going to kill us. If we were in that position, we should be panicking right now. But she will not. She's like, I don't think it's a one, Brennan. I don't think it's one. And she, her only restraint is like that financial pressure. I'm like, we're good. Like literally, it's one less billboard. Not even.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're good.
Yep.
The deals though, a lot of realtors, what they end up doing is they only approach sellers, all their marketing, everything, all their calls, their cold calls, etc. Everything they do is, do you want a home valuation to list your house to get it on the market? That's the offer they're making.
Yeah.
Do you want top dollar on the market? Worst offer ever. I learned this from our friends over there at Leverage, Troy and Eric. They were giving us a lot of their listing leads, right? For years, 3 years.
Their dispositions.
They're on the list on the retail side. And what I learned from them, 3 years, anything they would get, the seller said, hey, I want a retail price, they would refer over to us.
Got it. So because Leverage is out there cold calling, trying to get people who are like, I'm ready to sell now. And then people are like, you know what? I'd rather list it. Then they send it to you.
Correct. I would pay a VIG and that would be that.
Got it.
So the point is, though, I learned from Leverage where it was very simple. You make offers as an investor. That's it. So now what we're doing, we send checks out to homeowners and we say, hey, I want to buy your house. Like you would get a check from like a dealership, like a physical check. And it's like that. Looks like a W-2 came in. So you open it up and we send SMS, like 100,000 or whatever it is, and saying like a month. And we say like, hey, do you want to sell your house? We want to buy your house, cash. We genuinely have I have every intention to buy every house I can buy. Why not? But when I'm there, the vast majority of the funnel is either a waste of time. Then there's still a very small portion, which is like people who will sell in the next 3 to 6 months, a year. And then there's a tiny portion, which is, this is a property I need to buy right now. And that tiny portion is really how I became a millionaire. But the middle funnel, where it's like people that are listing, those listings that are like cash flow in my business gave me the freedom to be able to invest in those like renovation projects and invest in the marketing, because marketing is very expensive.
So you send out fake checks is a bad word.
No, it's fake checks.
Fake checks. Okay.
Yeah.
So you send out fake checks to someone, $600,000 to them. This is what it would feel like.
Yeah.
Okay. Through all these marketing efforts, because I'm sure you do a lot, you have billboards, you do text, you do direct mail, you do not get a lot of responses, people saying, I need to get out of this thing. I need to sell.
We, believe it or not,
I'm willing to take 70 cents on the dollar.
Oh wow, I love this conversation. So this real estate taught me another way real estate has impacted my life. I learned about change. I used to think, well, you have to get really good at one way of marketing and just stay with it for 10 years. It's impossible. Marketing, it goes like in waves.
Yeah.
The challenge was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, before the pandemic, well before the pandemic, that 70 cents on dollar, 80 cents on dollar, hey, I just need to get out of it, was like, yeah, this is good. Like, I need to get out. The problem is now with media, the vast majority of homeowners I talk to are in la la land because they hear in the news, this house went above 200 grand. Prices are higher than ever. Even in Newark has done a great job. And I'm all about protect the homeowner, protect the equity all day long. Even when I get my deal, I tell them, hey, I can pay this much in cash or this much on if we list it. And people will say, no, I just want the cash. Say, okay, Pete, I don't care. But the thing about Newark is they really promote the city of not selling your property. They promote that Newark is coming. So any person you talk to in Newark now, no one talks like, man, I'm in Newark. This place sucks. I got to get out. The homeowners have changed the verbiage. Even the homeowners who are like very low educated, perhaps they were born in another country and they're just immigrants in the past 5-10 years, right? Just getting the hang of America. Even they are like, no, this is like, do you know where I'm at? I'm in downtown Jersey City. I'm in Brooklyn. That's how they talk.
Wow.
I'm talking about even in rough areas of Newark.
So they're like, no, this is up and coming. I'm holding.
Yes. So we don't get it used to be where you would have a lot of people, like a farm. The problem is this land, the soil has been over farmed. Hundreds of wholesalers, ridiculous offers. Realtors, I just lost a listing because I priced out a property at $475, and that was really the max. Max. They wanted $525. I said, guys, even $475 was not real. It was crazy push. I had a realtor go in and tell him, hey, I could definitely get you $550. Like this other realtor has no idea what he's talking about.
I wish people didn't pick their agents or brokers based upon their valuation of the property.
I agree.
I wish.
I agree.
Because you know what?
I agree.
We're listing, right now I'm selling 24 townhouses in Arkansas.
Arkansas?
Yes. Northwest Arkansas. So, so when we were listing it, I'm like, guys, you're talking too much about making sure you get the right price. Underprice the fucking thing. Underprice it. You cannot go too low.
That's it.
You could go too high.
Yep.
If the things are worth $250, you could list it for $260 and you could blow the whole deal. You could list it for $180 and we could make more money than we ever thought.
Yep.
Because the market will find itself.
Always.
So I read this thing from eBay a long time ago. eBay said, back when eBay was big, is eBay, people still go to eBay?
I hope so. I like eBay.
eBay said, if you want to get the highest price for your item, start the bidding at $1. And that is how you get the highest price. Because you let emotion get involved. If you go to the agent that says, I promise I could get you 520, 530, 540, the agent that said I could get you 475 is going to get the same number. Because he's probably actually going to list the price lower, which means it gets more attention. It goes on Zillow, and all of a sudden there's 2,000 views and 400 saves.
Yep.
Now it's the hot. Everyone's talking about it. Did you hear about that deal?
Yeah.
On which street are we on?
On Martin Luther King Boulevard.
Martin Luther King Boulevard. You see that deal that just popped up? That 2-family. Now everyone knows about it.
Everybody.
If you would have threw it on the market for $550, it would just been like every other fucking deal that goes on the market. No one cares.
No one cares.
So pricing your stuff lower. Just don't pick your agent based upon that. From what I've seen,
I agree.
the best, because I've worked with good ones and bad ones, you're picking your agent based upon their capability to be responsive to the people that come in. And if they price it lower, their capability has to be higher.
Much higher.
Because if they price it at $450 and it's worth $550, their incoming calls are going to be, their phone's going to be exploding. They have to be able to handle that lead flow.
I love your mind. There was actually a story in California. They put a house for $1, this brokerage.
Yeah.
And it sold for $1.2 million.
Yeah. There you go.
It was literally, they did it as an example. They asked this guy, it was a beautiful home too. They asked this guy, they said, the developer, hey, we want to do something, we constantly reach sellers who have the same thing you said. And I have the same issue where it's like, well, I have clients say, if I list at 500, get out for 500, what am I going to do? Just say no.
Yeah, that's right.
Whoa.
I think everyone forgets. Everyone forgets that if you list your home, you do not have to sell it.
Yeah, literally.
People think when they sign that listing agreement that the house is gone already.
I'm moving.
Yeah. No, there's no one that comes and holds a gun to your head and says, sign the fucking contract.
No.
Doesn't happen.
Okay, another question for you, Chris.
Yes.
Changing topic.
Yeah.
How do real estate can be the impression is a real estate, especially as a developer, multifamily syndicator, people are really trusting you with their money, right?
Yeah.
They're putting a lot of trust. That trust puts a lot of pressure at times. How are you able to manage the pressure of without kind of collapsing?
That's a great question. And the answer is that is the most difficult part. So we put projections on deals. So projections are guesses. So we're getting involved in a business that we are guessing the future. We could just guess it because this business, we could fairly predict the future based on the past. But the past recently has been a little skewed. So what's going to happen in the future? Nobody knows is the answer. So during COVID, I had a hedge fund buddy who I built his home for him, probably the biggest, nicest house I ever built. And I spoke to him through COVID. He's like, Chris, we have the smartest people trying to predict the future. And every moment that goes by proves that they were wrong. So the answer is you can't predict the future. So as we're going through these deals, there's up months and down months. So different from every other syndicator, we pay monthly. Most other syndicators pay quarterly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So which puts us in a position that our distributions seem a little bit more sway because you see the immediate effect of every single month. Whereas if we paid quarterly, that those hits come slower and you don't notice them as much. because you're not expecting that $500 or $1,000 to hit your account. So now when it hits your account and it's 900, all of a sudden it's like, dude, what's going on? And we're like, and I have to call sometimes call my investors and say, you got $900 where you normally get $1,000. The business is still kicking off a tremendous amount of money. No one leases in the winter. If an apartment goes vacant, it stays vacant in December, January. Just how it is. February,
That's actually very true.
March, it'll be leased. So this business, you'll see in the summer, now in the future, your checks will be higher. It's just how this goes. So that pressure, and when someone calls me, like I will cancel Christmas morning with my kids to answer a question from an investor.
Wow.
It's just, if I'm opening kids' presents with my kid and I see my phone and it's an investor, my personality is I have to stop what I'm doing, answer that question, and I'll get back to the gifts.
Wow, really?
Should I be doing that? Like as a father? Well, probably. I mean, everyone will say like, I would never do that. Like, dude, that's just how we run our business. I
think, look, teach his own for sure.
But the pressure, you ask, how do you handle the pressure? The pressure of not doing exactly, like if the performance, and I tell the investors like, I know what next month already looks like because we see the future leasing. Next month will be higher. And whenever it's a down slope, the pressure builds. But now when it's an up month, when you're sending out 11, 12, 1,300, you don't hear from anybody.
No. It's the same thing. So I manage Airbnbs for maybe, I've managed for over a dozen people. I manage right now maybe like 35 Airbnbs, 40 Airbnb listings. Like some of them are room rentals, but across like maybe 15 different properties, right? So what I've learned though is exactly what you said. There are months that one of my guys, he just got $4,000. He usually gets $3,100. Didn't say a word. $900 difference. Yep. Big money.
Yeah.
And one month he got $2,600, $2,700. Yeah. This guy went off. He said, cancel the Airbnb. I need to put it as a rental. Can you find me a tenant?
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy.
Yeah.
And then thankfully I have one guy, I'll give him a shout out, Oscar Pita. Great. I sold him a 3-family in Newark like 5 years ago. Well, good friend now. And I manage his property for him. He's actually looking to buy another. The point of the story is he will go up and down, up and down, up and down, but he just remains like totally trust because he's done it with me for 2 years on Airbnb, just coming on 3 years. So he's like, I know January and February suck.
Yeah.
He goes, we always lose money here.
Yeah.
So he doesn't panic.
Yeah.
Because then in June, when he's like, holy crap, I brought in $5,000. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yep.
No, but it is, the up and down can be a lot. But man, I got to be honest, the syndicating, that is one of my fear because that's a big fear.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. And even though you know everything's okay, the pressure of people coming at you like, what's up? There's pressure actually. So we just started a new fund for development because there's so much money to be made in development in the areas that I am in, like Jersey Shore, Staten Island. Like the video that you saw me on, the 2-family, we got off that topic a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Those deals are very lucrative and very stable. Like that home's selling at or above what you thought it was going to sell for. Yeah. Even in a bad market, that home's still going. You're in New York City, right? So everyone wants to think that everyone's leaving the city. Sure. One ass leaves, there's 5 that want to take its
Literally.
spot. Yeah. So now we're raising capital with a fixed interest rate or fixed rate. So 10.5% to 11.5%, depending on how much money you put in. That's what you're earning. No questions, nothing.
Well, then what if you lose money on the deal?
So
I'm sure you must have lost money. No one's perfect.
The only deal I've never lost money on a real estate deal.
Stop. You've never lost any money?
No, because the majority of my projects were rentals. And all my new construction projects, there's such a large spread. One deal I made $10,000 on that I put a lot of work into. That was a flip in Staten Island. And from that, I learned don't ever buy a house next to a hoarder. Because whenever you go to market that house, no matter how nice you make it, the next door neighbor will make your house look like shit.
Good lesson.
Yeah. So that was a house flip, less margin. So I didn't make nearly as much as I liked, but I never came out negative on a deal.
Wow.
The only time I actually ever lost money in real estate, and this is what you actually pay sponsors for, is just recently I lost $180,000 on a down payment. So I put a down payment on a property,
Okay.
$100,000 down payment, then lender deposits and all this stuff. It added up to $180,000. We went through due diligence, and we wanted the deal so badly in Northwest Arkansas that, against my better judgment, I guess, I put a hard money deposit, my own money.
What's hard money deposit mean?
It's non-refundable.
Oh, okay.
So I put a deposit down. We toured it. We went through it. We went through the numbers over and over. And I'm like, you know what? Interest rates made a little bit of a change. And I'm like, this is not, we raised all the money. It was sitting in the account. And I was like, we're not doing the deal. Called all my investors, hey, this deal that I wanted you to invest in, we decided that we're not going to do it. And I just had to let the money go. So that, I didn't lose money. I've never lost the money on a deal that I closed on. How about that?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's pretty rare, man. My first deal, I got panicked by an oil tank and I took a $7,000 loss. Outside of that, I've not lost money.
Yeah, I mean, that's $7,000.
$7,000 loss. And it was my first deal.
If anything, you made a ton of money on that deal.
I survived, yeah. Because the oil tank?
No, because of the knowledge you got.
Oh, yeah.
7,000 is nothing.
Do you know now, actually, to be honest with you, I love buying properties with oil tanks. Almost every property I've ever bought, I've bought 12 properties so far. Of the 12, only 2 have not oil tanks.
Wow.
Oh, no, sorry, 3 have not oil tanks.
You love the scare factor.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's where the distress is. That's where the deal is.
Yeah.
The higher the distress, the higher the deal.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, another question real quick for you. So, but I guess you kind of hinted on with the kid thing. How do you, how does it feel to parent, right? Because I have one kid right now. Hopefully my wife and I will have a second one soon.
Yeah.
How does it feel like running the business and then somehow making time so when you're with your kids, you can actually be with your kids?
Very difficult. Very difficult. I'm so laser focused on what I'm doing in business. It is difficult for me to peel away and give the proper time I should be giving to my kids. It is a guilty thing. Pictures help me get through that. So it helps me remind myself that we did do the things. We are doing the things.
What do you mean the pictures?
Take pictures of what you're doing. Like, this is a constant thing that's going on in my head, like the topic you just brought up. Like, how do I make time for my kids? I do. And sometimes I'll start thinking to myself, like, I'm not doing enough of it. It is a constant battle in my head that you're constantly like, now if I don't focus on work, am I doing the right? Because you basically go to either extreme, right? One extreme is never talk to your kids and only focus on work. And the other extreme is don't focus on work at all and only focus on your kids.
Man, it's so interesting. There's it's very interesting. Whenever I hear success, people who are motivated, ambitious, successful to a degree, the vast majority of the time, they think binary, where it's like either I'm in one extreme or the other extreme. It could literally just be in the middle. It could be we can do my business may not grow at the velocity it grew, but I still am going to grow it. And I may not be spending as much time with my kids as I want, but I'm spending more time than I did.
Yeah.
So it's that is actually what I've learned is the way. I think that is the way, man. It's interesting though, because
it's actually gotten significantly harder for me as I got older.
Ooh, why is that?
Yeah.
I think it would be easier.
No. Yeah. So I had my first daughter when I was 26, running the businesses I was talking about earlier. So Subway to home remodeling to custom home building to running apartments. During that time, up until about mid-30s to 36, 37, I was very good at very little to no phone calls at night and very little to no phone calls on the weekend. Very good at it. And this is family time. This is what we're doing. As time went on, I decided that I wanted to really step it up and level up. And that's the point that I'm at right now as we speak.
How long ago was that?
2 to 3 years ago, where I was like, what I'm doing isn't scaling fast enough. I need to stop what I'm doing, change gears. And that was me saying, I'm no longer doing renovations for people. I'm no longer building custom houses. I'm only going to be doing my own projects with the syndications and the multifamily type thing.
Okay, so it does make sense right now while you're picking up the phone so much. I promise you, if we got back in this chair 3 years from now, you would not be picking up the phone so much. Your system would probably be more built. You probably have some people raising the funds, better investor relations specialists.
Yeah.
I
think in 40, I've seen a lot of people do this for some reason, like your late 30s to 40s, late 30s, early 40s. A lot of people sell, which if I have any advice to anyone, thank God I built my real estate career from a young age, so I actually have assets. There's a lot of 40-year-olds that have their salary, and that's it.
I
And I'm like, holy shit. I'm mad that I had my salary, my business, and my real estate assets.
Yeah.
But the one thing I wish if I were to go back in time and do differently is I wish I built a business that was sellable and infinitely scalable, which the renovation business isn't really.
No, it's not.
It's too detailed.
No, it's not. No way. No way.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah. Like, you know, the book, like Built to Sell, like literally the book Built to Sell.
Yeah.
But long story short, that's what they talk about. It's like right from the beginning, you had to know what you're building.
Yeah.
I have a real estate team, right?
Yeah.
Real estate team is not sellable.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who's ever sold. Actually, that's true. What people do with real estate teams.
Yeah. What did Corcoran sell?
So that's different. Brokerage.
Okay.
Brokerage, totally different.
Okay.
A franchise, different. Real estate team is this weird, like, ugly cousin.
Yeah.
It used to be. Now it's like they got very hot. Now there's actually like, basically your real estate team becomes your own like private boutique brokerage. And the point is this, what people will do when they sell, because if you have a successful real estate team, like we do 200 units a year, give or take, we do about 100 million in volume, right? Give or take. So let's say it's about like 2.5 million in GCI, right? 2.5 million coming in, maybe 2.8 million, whatever, 2.7. So if we do that, that is very, very unique because all your money really is coming from sales professionals that can leave tomorrow. So people, and especially when my team's named the Silva team, which is actually very bad. Because when you build to sell, and I've thought about it, like, times I was like very down, I'm like, man, I just gotta get rid of this. Bad. Because for me, what I've learned is what you actually want to do, you want to build great systems, great processes, have top talent with a long track success record. So it's like an asset, right? Like my top people are like my assets. Like, hey, I'm heavily invested in making sure you succeed because it's mutually beneficial. Then what they'll do is this. This is what most people do. There's big like teams. For example, one is called Sarah Reynolds Empower Team. She does like 33 million in GCI, right? So her business brings in 33 million. She'll go see your business. She'll come visit. She'll look at the books. She'll meet the agents, the whole nine. Now I guess her acquisitions person does it. And then she'll partner with you. Say, hey, you step aside. I'll run the shop. You'll get a VIG, so you're aligned with interest, right? But I want the bulk. I want like the 51% or whatever it is. And then they have that same thing with Empower Homes, Place, all these different big companies. Even Eric Melkanov, he's with Place, right? So they like partner with you. They're building the organization with you, all that stuff, but they take a VIG. And with that, I do recognize though that I'm building something here in real estate team that when I die, unless like someone wants to take it over, like one of my employees or something, or I walk away from the business, one of my team members, and I get a VIG, it's not something that you can ever really hand off in full. It's a very unfortunate. I do agree with you. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah, looking back, that would be the biggest, because I've seen it a lot. Like when you hit 40, like you kind of, it's like a second wake up where you like almost check in with yourself. Is what I'm doing the right path for the rest of my life? And I decided at the time, a couple of years ago, that it wasn't.
Wow.
And I do know a lot of people who made the same decision and they just had an exit. They just sold their business.
Peace.
So that I basically had to just say, I'm not doing that anymore.
But you had your real estate portfolio.
Yes. I'm crying with 2 loaves of bread under my arm.
Okay.
But if I were to go back in time, I would have liked to exit a business instead of not do it anymore.
Yeah. Because you didn't do the real. Oh, I understand now. Because you had built all this customer base with the house building, with the custom builds, with all this stuff.
Yes.
And now what are you going to do? You're going to hand it off to someone for free?
I was using the money I made to buy real estate.
Yeah.
Great. So that saved me.
Oh.
So wow. I don't look back.
That's how I feel right now.
I didn't look back. I'm not looking back at my first 40 years and say, I fucking wasted it. I didn't do what I needed to do. I have all my real estate.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, an exceptional portfolio. Like to say that I have $15 million of my own and then another $50 million in syndicated assets under management. Like it's a nice portfolio.
Yeah.
But if I were to go back and say, what would I do different? Because I actually think it's good. I think it's good content for a podcast. Like if I'm listening to someone talk, like, what would you done differently?
Yeah.
Because people are like, oh, that guy's successful, whatever, and like, no, I'd like to know what would you have done differently?
Yeah.
My answer is I would have made sure that I built something that actually was able to be sold. And I know so many of my friends, even with successful businesses, are like, dude, my shit ain't sellable. Even my buddy who's building the high-rise building
next to my apartment
by yours, the 100 unit. He said, he's like, my business ain't sellable. And he does superstructure, concrete superstructure. And he's like, the whole business is so him-centric. He's like, if I die, the business dies.
So wait, you couldn't have, sold your home building business. You couldn't have partnered with another builder and taken a vig on the clients you brought in or something?
Yeah, but okay. Could I have sold the business? The answer is who's going to buy it? Like, why would someone buy a renovation company on Staten Island?
Did you know there's actually a big move to buy small businesses? Like now more than ever, because the baby boomer generation, they retire.
Yeah.
We had someone on the podcast. That's what they were talking about. They were talking about how they were looking to buy any businesses, and that was their big thing.
I really think that there's a good future in buying businesses like that. Home rent, like if you could buy a plumbing, so you're buying, okay, that business is a one and done business. I built someone a custom house. I will never see you again. Right? If I have a plumbing business and the phone's ringing all day with repairs, if I just hand you this phone, that shit will continue to ring.
What's the term? It's like predictable revenue, something like this. David taught me about it, actually. Choi, he was telling me, he's like, that's how people value businesses. It's like something revenue. It's like predictable revenue coming in each year. That's what they go off of. So like the plumbing business, that's a good example. Yeah, because it's like, hey, this is going to keep happening. Yes. The giant one-offs, high risk. High risk. Yeah. But those plumbing businesses, the reason why it's cool, they sell at great multiples. 3 to 5, boom, boom, boom. So you can make, I think you're right, actually. That was my vision with the Airbnb.
If I would have niched down, my business would be significantly more sellable. So every single time, so say if I had a roofing business, a plumbing business, HVAC business, those businesses grow because they're so niche. Yeah. Like, my business, it's a relationship. You're getting, when you have someone build you a house, you're getting in bed with them for 6 months, 8 months, a year.
Yeah, and you're really in bed.
Yeah, like we're straight up sleeping together.
Literally.
But in a roof, you're like, oh, I heard this
this company's good.
Excuse me. I heard this company is good. Right. In and out. They come, they rip the roof off, they install it. Great. It was a great experience. So in hindsight, I would have built something that I could sell. And how would I have done that? I would have niched down. Wow. I was general. I was a general contractor. General. That means it's very difficult to
you're broad.
To systemize.
Yeah. No. And the systems are I think that's what I realized, man. Your life in real estate, because I'd say, and not just real estate, entrepreneurship, let's say, for example, there's a really good book. It's called Buy Back Your Time. Actually, you should read the book. It'll be really good. Yeah. Really good, actually, especially with the kid thing that you referenced. One thing that he does is he makes people go through, like every 15 minutes, write down what you do for 2 weeks. And like then in the end, you rank it on what do I make the most money on and what do I make joy on a scale 1 to 4, 1 to 4. And then you put it on a graph. Anyways, it's really helpful because it actually led me to hiring an assistant. Because now my assistant, for example, I'm in between assistants right now. My other one just started. You met her downstairs, Diana. So far, so good. One day in. But before, my assistant would reach out to podcast guests. She would book it. She would do everything. And I would just show up. So that may not sound like much, right? But that hour, I'm like, who do I want on my podcast?
That's so much.
Dude, so much.
So much.
It's so much.
Yeah.
And then what I had her doing as well from the book Buy Back Your Time was because I realized I was checking email and I was opening up my mail. Opening up my mail doesn't sound like a lot of time. My mail takes about 20 minutes every week. I get a ton of freaking mail. I don't know how to stop this mail. And I always check because I'm worried about missing something. Sure. So I'm like, oh God, about 15 minutes a week. I'm pretty quick. Yeah. I get a lot of mail. 15 minutes. No big deal. That's an hour a month. Yep. It adds up. So she would go, she would check the mail, she would see, categorize, let me know if there's anything that need my attention. If not, bills got paid. I got parking ticket. I didn't even know. I got paid. I didn't even think. No emotional energy. The point I'm trying to share is this. If you do not have a business, if you don't have anything, I have a small business, right? I'm a small business American, right? Great, Brazilian American. What I've learned is if you do not have a system in place, truly a system, not just like something you say, but documented procedures, how it gets done the same way, whether I'm dead or alive, it's getting done, which I have here. And I've been building this over the past 3 years now, really locked down systems. dude, you will have a miserable life. Miserable life. You'll want to either sell your business and give it away, not even sell for a good price, just like distressed.
Yes.
2, you will stall, right? Where it's like the expression is like, you need to fire that person, but you just don't do it. You don't know why.
Yeah.
Right? But like, because you actually don't want your business to grow.
Right.
Because if it grows, it's going to increase pain. And why would you grow something that increases your pain?
Right.
And then third thing is sabotage. That's when like you're very impulsive, right? You make rash decisions. You like know for sure, like that deal you walked away from. You know this sucks. But you're like, I'm just going to move forward with it. Because you want your business to fail. Because you want out. Because it hurts you so much.
Yeah.
With all that said, though, if you do the opposite and you really value your time and you protect your time and you spend time only on things that bring you a lot of money and a lot of joy, you actually don't want to sell your business because you like love what you do.
Yeah.
So right now I'm in that place where I'm
That's great.
I'm really only doing things for the vast majority outside of property management Airbnbs that I'm building the systems around that I really like doing. And honestly, I really like it. Like I told you, I probably would do this if my portfolio brought in 10 times the money. I really enjoy what I do. Like genuinely enjoy. It's very rare, but I think it's so good.
Yeah, I think getting to the point where the systems are built, and dude, I hear you so loud and clear on the mail and all that stuff. And I have an assistant as well, actually a new one. And for a short period of time, I didn't have one. Just during like the transition of moving from home building to this, it's false to say I didn't have an assistant. I just didn't have someone like right next to me, and I was like, man, this is like I shouldn't be doing any of this stuff.
Anything.
You skimmed right over it, but writing down the things you do every day,
15 minutes.
15 minutes. It's the biggest thing. And that's actually that I use that procedure to figure out what to replace next.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, eventually you can't do it in a system, right? Then you need like someone who's like very, very like knows what they're talking about in this industry. For example, sales director, whatever it is. But yeah, even right now, but my previous assistant, I had an experience and loved her. She was great, etc. But she didn't want to do small tasks or what she thought was small. For example, so sometimes I had to run home and walk my dog for whatever reason. That I did not like doing. I was not a fan. I got like very upset.
That's why I have a cat.
Smart man.
Yeah.
When I was hiring this new assistant, literally on the job description, it's like walk dog.
Yeah. Right.
As needed.
Yeah.
It's
as needed.
It's not rude
right.
if you agree.
That's right.
So up front, I was like, hey, this is exactly what's the case. I was solving problems because I would feel bad. Like 10:30, I'm like, I got to fix this leak. I'm going to help.
Yeah.
Because she was like, Brendan, you didn't tell me I would be getting calls after 10.
Yeah.
So the newest is I said, you will get a call at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
It won't really get a call at 1 a.m. But by 10 it may.
It can happen.
It can happen.
Yeah.
That's what you got to be ready for. Or do you want the job?
Yeah.
And I said it 7 times. So yeah, the assistant is the way for sure. The realtor.
I tried. Have you ever tried? We could probably go on for a long time, but have you ever? You have virtual assistants?
I have tried. It doesn't work for me because I need someone mobile. Because I use them. I have tried virtual assistant a lot. I use my assistant as like a runner if I need something ran.
Yeah.
Like she'll drop listing packets off at client's house. So I like the. Personally, I think and maybe this is not good. I don't know if I should this, but I like the idea of when you meet my assistant, it's representative of me.
Yeah.
So when I one of my big things when I was hiring Diana downstairs is when I met her, I'm like, this girl is phenomenal. She's so warm. I love her. She's great. And I felt that way. So I'm like, when someone meets her, I want them to feel the same thing I'm feeling.
Yeah.
The virtual, I haven't been able to find that virtual where they make that like
connection,
the connection with people. Yeah. Because I've had assistants in the past where people are literally calling me after like, Brendan, what does Savannah do for you? And I'm like, oh, Savannah's my assistant. She goes, oh my God, man, this girl's amazing. And when you hear that, you're like,
oh, it's the best thing as a business owner to hear that.
The best. But that guy was, oh my God.
Yeah.
And you're like, that person deserves a raise.
Yes.
That person's getting like.
I've actually had people call me say, this person deserves a raise. I wish we just gave the guy a raise. Yeah. And actually, it's a funny story. So the woman did this about one of the guys that works for me, then hung up the phone and called me back. And I was like, hello? She was like, James, I just called your boss and I told him to give you a raise. I'm like, this is still Chris.
All right. This is what last story. Then I do want to share some with you because you said it. It slipped my mind. With your wife, you mentioned that sometimes as a real estate investor, right, we can go broke and rich, right?
Yeah.
I have a smaller portfolio. I just got my 20th unit as of December 29th. Yeah, thank you. Very Huge accomplishment to me. I'm very grateful. thank the Lord Almighty.
Yeah.
I have
As you do the closings, you still feel joy?
on this one, I did feel joy. I usually don't feel joy at all, but this one I did feel immense joy.
Great.
Immense.
Yeah, try to hold that. Try to hold that. For me, when I was younger, it used to be when I closed on something, we go out to eat that night, we celebrate, holding up quotation marks. It's easy to lose that. Try not to lose it.
Good advice.
Because then it's just like the regular course of business. Like I'll sign a contract while I'm driving on DocuSign now.
Wow.
And the emotion leaves. Like, hold it.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah. Hold it.
That's deep.
Yeah, have the enjoyment. That's what it's all about.
Wow, I can agree.
It becomes systematized.
I always tell a story. My first check was like $2,500, $2,700, $23, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I got a $900 rental check. My first sale check was like $2,300, $28, whatever.
Yeah.
And I drove home. I took a picture with my mom. I cried. She cried.
Yeah.
She bought me an Express shirt.
Yeah.
Like, it was a huge deal.
Yeah.
Long story short, my largest sale in my career, I had like almost like a $60,000 check. And my assistant gives it to me. I look at it. I'm like, all right, please deposit this.
Right back to business.
And I'm telling you, at that moment, I realized like later on that day what happened because I was with my family. And I'm like, I was like, if I bring this up, no one's going to understand. We're just like, this is a lot for my family. That's a large sum of money.
Of course.
Right. So it's like, this is a year's salary.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, how can if I tell them this, they're going to think I'm rich. They don't know that I just spent like 40 grand last week trying to like this new marketing thing that fell apart and I wasted the money.
Sure.
Anyways, the point is you do lose the emotion.
Yeah.
Which goes to say this story, why I regained my emotion on buying. I'm so happy with the story. I had a complete fiasco of a house. I ended up being in 8 units in North Newark. Right, actually the last street of Newark. An 8 units where I bought it for $950. $925. That's what it ended up being. $950 with $25K back in closing costs. I bought it. I got the whole place, raised values, et cetera, in the past few months. Good. 2 units weren't rented. I rent them out on Airbnb now. The point is, when I bought that, I had to sell a property. I had to 1031, right, in order to get the money. I had to close by the end of the year because you have a 1099. I mean, for cost segregation, depreciation, because I wanted to get the full write-off. Yeah. So I had to do that. When I did that, though, I bought the property in an LLC in my wife and I's name. She was like, because her credit score is higher. So I said, okay, great. Doesn't matter, DSCR loan, whatever. Buy there. But the property I was 1031ing was in my own name. So I didn't realize you can't 1031 and like that. I didn't know. Yeah. So 2 weeks before closing, all hell hits a fan. I end up putting my wife quitclaim deed on this house. I then, in order to close on time, I have to give this buyer $10,000, just like free. I'm like, he's like, no, I'm waiting for a grant from the city. It's $10,000. I said, brother, you cannot wait. I'll give you the $10,000. Yeah, brother. And I gave him the money. And he's like, okay, great. Yeah. I go through with him. We close. I 1031. We closed the deal, signed documents on Friday, Thursday, Friday, whatever, the last day of the year. The deal only funded Thursday the next week. But because they deeded here, we got it going. And that moment was it caused me so much stress. I'm not kidding. I literally was wired. I had to borrow money because the DSCR needed this. I was not really qualified for this thing. I didn't have the money on one place. It came from business account, my personal account. So much stress. My wife told me, Brendan, we should not buy this property. Yeah. This is causing too much stress. I said, Deb, there's one thing we're doing, which is buying this property. There's one thing, no matter what it takes. Yeah. And during that, I was under contract on another property too. She says, Brendan, how the hell are we going to buy that one? Yeah. I said, Deb, we're not going to be able to do anything financially. Yeah. When I bought the other property in Richfield Park, I bought it with like literally almost 80, 100 grand equity off the rip. Yeah. No work needed. I bought it. Next week, I put it back on the market. Simple. Yeah. I got an offer, 120K more than I paid for it. Great. Can be mad. Yeah. Great. I spent like 30 grand for needed to do just for the city. We were insane. Sure. And then I said, great, I still make my money. Yeah. My point of story is this. I took a $5,000 loan from my brother. I took a $20,000 loan from a friend. I took like $60,000 loans out, personal loans, just to hold me over. Yeah. My wife was like, Brendan, do you realize that we make so much money in this situation where this is very stressful? Yeah. I said, Deb, I understand. Very stressful. I agree with you. Yeah. This is what we're doing. She goes, okay, let's do it. No worries. And she's super supportive, super loving, all this stuff. Yeah. And you could see that she saw my stress of like, we really have no money right now. Yeah. And I called my friend. I asked him for a $5,000 loan. He was like, Brendan, what? You okay? Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I just need it for like literally like 4 days. Yeah. Just need like 60 grand for like 5 days. Yeah. And then we did that, and I cashed out, refi the project. Now I'm rich again.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah, man. That's how it goes. All the way up.
all the way. It never stops, does it?
No. You asked me a question. We could probably end on this.
Yeah.
You asked me a question in the email. You might have said, I want to know what real estate has done to your life.
Oh, yeah.
The first thing that came to my head was it ruined it.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, you got Chris out here. Please follow him. He'll be linked down below. Appreciate you guys.